I don't think people realize how fortunate we are to have CVIC in our community.
Oh my goodness, CVIC is one of the most incredible organizations.
I really can't imagine where I'd be without CVIC and their therapy.
Probably the most rewarding part is just knowing that you've changed lives.
We're lucky to have CVIC in our community.
The Safer Tomorrows Roadmap is really a plan, a very systematic and comprehensive plan to end violence in 2 generations in the greater Grand Forks area. Violence is actually quite predictable. Who's to say that we can't prevent it before it starts?
So one of the foundations of the Safer Tomorrows Roadmap is a national study that was done on childhood trauma. It's actually one of the largest studies that was done on childhood trauma from the Centers for Disease Control in Kaiser Permanente. And we know if we extrapolate that data to Grand Forks County that there's actually more than 1,900 youth who are facing severe trauma. So this is a number of children that could fill an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. So a very humbling number. Where CVIC and its partners and donors and volunteers come in is we provide a holistic approach to that problem through safety, healing, and education and prevention services. At the end of the day, what we all want more than anything is a Grand Forks County that creates resilient individuals, strong families, and thriving communities. And one of the best ways to do that is to prevent violence from ever happening in the first place.
Kyle is an example of breaking the cycle of violence.
That's kind of how it started, was verbally, and then it slowly got worse.
Growing up in his house, he had a high probability of turning out just like his father.
So I went upstairs and got in between them, and he's just yelling at her at the bedside, and I was just kind of trying to push him out the door, and that's all I wanted to do, and became a pushing match, and we kind of wrestled around for a bit. We hit the dresser, and a 2PV hit me right in the head. I think it was like 4th of July weekend. And I noticed my dad was drunk. That night he decided to come home and beat my mom, like massively. Hearing about that the next day was pretty devastating. And then seeing her in person was on another level. Because my mom had a very strong spirit, and there was no spirit there at that time. I felt it was my fault because I wasn't there to protect her. Chris was definitely like a nice impact on me.
As law enforcement, you don't pick one and say, this is the one where I'm gonna make the difference.
He was an investigator, I believe, at the time. He came and checked up on my mom every day, and later on, knowing that he dealt with stuff as a kid.
I'm passionate about it because I grew up in a household with domestic violence, and we did not have a CVIC. We didn't have anything.
I would talk to him a little bit, and he knew, what I was going through, and he could tell, and he wanted the best for me. After that, I really started struggling in school. I'd go down to a special ed teacher, and they would read to me because I could hear it better, understand it better. I was kind of talking to her about the stuff, and the first time she's like, I know this place called CVIC, and I think it'd do great for you. And finally went in, started with Teresa Hug.
He'd come in and come prepared with a list of things he wanted to talk to me about, and just presented all the information very open and honestly, especially for a older teen boy meeting with a therapist for the first time.
I really wanted to, in that point in my life, I was like, I want to change my dad. And she told me, you can't change him. He has to change himself. And that was a very hard one for me because I wanted both my parents. I had to learn I can only do so much. And it's not your fault that you can't change him. He's got to change himself. I just look at my experience, I'm like, God, if I didn't have it, I wouldn't be here. I would not be right here right now.
What you always hope is that someone is able to go through therapy and take the skills that we're talking about and learning about and apply those in life.
And then with having kids later down the line, hopefully, and what not to do and what to do, you know. And if you ever need help or stuff like that, if you're in the situation or a friend's in the situation, you can be there for them.
One of the really special things about the Safer Tomorrows Roadmap is that CVIC does not do this work alone. We have many partners, donors, and volunteers who walk alongside us. And because we don't walk alone, our clients don't either.
Probably the first involvement with CVIC was on the crisis team. I was fortunate enough to be able to see firsthand what CVIC does and how they help this community so much.
Tom's stories when he came back from the crisis line were really moving. And then we had a friend who went through a tragedy. And she would not have thrived without the CVIC. And that's when we were all in.
I have been in 5 different school systems, and this is the only community in which I have been part of a partnership like this. And again, I think that speaks to the strength of the leadership at CVIC. I think it speaks to the strength of the mission of CVIC and their responsiveness to the needs of the people in front of them. Where CVIC comes in is that they help kids understand the difference between relationships that might seem attractive but aren't healthy, and relationships that truly are healthy and based on trust, the right kind of love, the right kind of attention.
Now, being in the role of one of the partners of the Safer Tomorrows Roadmap, I think it's really gratifying to be able to collaborate, to really tackle this issue, and just to be a part of seeing the Safer Tomorrows Roadmap move forward is incredibly gratifying.
I firmly believe that their 2-generation goal is reachable as long as we have the support in our community and we have the people willing to go out there and educate. It is a realistic plan. Think about what you support and what you envision your community looking like for you or your children or grandchildren.
The support around CVIC and its mission is there because the mission is solid and the roadmap is solid.
Ending violence in 2 generations is no doubt a nearly insurmountable challenge. But for CVIC and our partners and donors, we refuse to be intimidated by that, because there are 1,900 youth with severe trauma right here in Grand Forks County who are counting on us. We owe it to them to think big.